I think it's pretty much time to start.
Yeah.
Alright, so welcome to our first stream, guys. My name's Straits. I've been playing Korea for a very long time. I actually stopped about a month ago. And with me I have Kinto and Mizu.
Hey guys, I'm Kinto. Some of you guys may know me from Reddit or possibly the forums, or even more so, maybe my YouTube channel, cough cough. Um, and there's also Mizu over here.
Yeah, hello there, guys. Well, most people know me by Mizuho or just Amy on the now official forums. I've been playing this game for about 11 months, starting OBT, so there's quite a bit of experience there.
So the first thing I wanted to do is give people a quick recap of Alpha. There was a lot of talk and a lot of great suggestions that were given in Alpha. The two biggest things everyone talked about were the karma system and trading. So for the karma system, there was an overall consensus that it should go back to closed beta test levels, or the more easier to understand version, the Lineage 2 style
Lineage
karma.
2.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see where a lot of people are coming with that. I think a lot of people talked about it so much that we don't have to talk about it here. I mean, it's kind of beating the dead horse. Everybody kind of wants a system that's similar to that.
And moving on to beating the dead horse, we're also not really going to talk about trading. I feel that everyone's beat that horse enough. It has died a long time ago. The only thing left for us to do is wait to see when Dom comes over and buries it where Dom buries the horse. At that at that point
Yeah,
at that point, if we really want to, we can dig up the horse and keep beating it.
Oh my God, great analogy there. Great
that
analogy.
reminds me of the great era of the horse wars.
We're not going to
Good
go into horse wars here. All right, so from there, I want to actually go into our first main topic, which is instancing in BDO. So, instancing in Black Desert has actually started to become a minor thing in Korea with the Red Battlefield. So first I want to, for anyone that doesn't know, the original Red Battlefield was an overlay on the standard world map. To get into it, you talk to your Black Spirit, and it put you on the team with the lowest number of players, either red or blue. From there, you can freely fight anyone else who is also in the red battlefield. There is no karma loss, and upon killing them, you can win some tokens. So from there, Korea decided to scrap that and go to the new red battlefield. Kento?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the new Red Battlefield, it was recently patched in a few weeks ago. And the way it works now is you started out like the normal one where you talk to your Black Spirit, but after you talk to him and you click the button, you're teleported into an instance arena that's locked off from the rest of the world. And inside this instance arena, it worked like any other battle arena game you'd probably play, where it's more structured and you obtain points for getting kills. Uh, some interesting ways that it works is the more kills that a person has, the higher their score. And then if you die from the opposite team, they get a better score from killing you. So it's kind of emphasizing trying to kill whoever has the highest score. Uh, at the end, the team with the most points is the one who wins. And some notable mechanics for it is that most people will get 1,000 extra HP, and if you're undergeared, your attack and defense will be compensated. How much is to be tested, but yeah, there's that. So the issues that I have with the current Red Battlefield system is mainly the fact that it's instancing you. It's putting you off from the rest of the world and carrying you to your own little unique corner of the world. And what this does is it kind of hurts the open world PvP that's in the game that was the original thing that drew me to the game in the first place was everything just out in the open world, none of this instancing.
Kento, if I can interrupt you right there,
Go
one
ahead.
thing I want to mention is that the main thing that differentiates Black Desert Online from every other game out there on the market right now is that it is everything you do is open world. So everything you do comes into interaction with the world, and we should be working on keeping that world alive instead of separating the players from it.
I totally agree on that one, since it was the original concept. I mean, you have a huge world, you have not a single loading screen besides logging in once, so Why would you throw that away just for some buttons or something like that?
So moving on from there, the reason, at least I believe, the Red Battlefield was introduced is at the moment the open world PvP in Korea is dead. When they merged the servers, the mega server Korea ended up with has 24 channels at this point. It is nearly impossible to find GVG or open world targets. When I go out to grind in Korea, most of the time I don't see anyone, and at most maybe one person.
Right.
So one thing I want to point out from here is that we really need to work on keeping channels down in NA or go with the standard couple server model, because we can always ask DOM to merge servers together, but once a mega server is created, you
There's
can't
no way
really.
to split it. Yeah.
Yeah, splitting is not really an option.
So the Red Battlefield was introduced as a fix for Korea. I think if we all actually participate in the open world, there's no reason that should ever be introduced in NA because we really don't need it. Um, Kinto, if you want to talk about the other instancing and 3v3s in the game.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, they also have a 3v3 mode in the game. As long as you're on a channel 1 for the server, you can queue up for this mode, and you can queue up with your party of 3. And what happens is you're teleported straight into the Altanova arena, which is inside the media zone. You will be able to fight, and it's first to, I think it's the first to 3 rounds, or best of 3. Is that right?
Best of three.
Best of 3, yeah. And the best of 3 is the one who actually takes the win. And there's not really any rewards for doing this. It's more so just for bragging rights, just to be put on the leaderboards. But again, I kind of have mixed feelings with this. I hate the fact that it's instanced. But if they could implement something like that that's out in the open world where it's not taking you away from the game and putting you there, I would be okay with it, as long as it's just not instance. I guess that's my main gripe, is it being instanced.
Well, there's also the thing, the Altinova arena at first was open world, and since the
Yeah.
introduction of that mode, you cannot enter it anymore.
You can no
But you
longer
also-
enter Altanova Arena, yeah.
You can't even watch the matches, if I remember right. Which
No,
you
you
can
cannot.
do on all the other open world arenas like Heidel or Calphion. You can always just join and watch.
Hmm.
For everyone that has seen, I know most people who have played the alpha have seen the Heidel arena at least, so they know that you can set up your own 3v3s or 2v2s rather easily. So there can be player run or GM run tournaments. Whether they keep the 3v3 or not, I think as long as they keep it for pure bragging rights, so it does not have anything to do with rewards, at that point I think it's fine to keep, but it should be for bragging rights. That way people are still going to the open world for all the rewards and for progression within the game.
Right.
I mean, the open world arena even works very well. Community has proven it with the organized 3v3 or one-on-one tournaments that has been held like a month or two ago. That worked out fine. It's just people need like some usual normal etiquette and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right?
I think having the arenas out in the open world is great for community building. It allows player interaction, which I think is key for any kind of MMO.
That's true.
So with that, I would like to address the last issue that was hit on by the mega server merge. Actually, a part of that, we discussed guild versus guild a little bit, and I want to bring up a part of guild versus guild some people may not know about, and that's the upkeep.
So yeah, so if you're doing guild versus guild and you declare war on another guild, so apart from being able to freely attack that guild from then on after you declare, but you also have to make sure that you're remembering that you're paying a 1 million silver upkeep fee, or not upkeep fee, but declaration fee. But after you pay that fee, if the guild that you declared war on doesn't declare back on you, you have to pay an upkeep fee, which is 200k silver currently on the Korean version. In my opinion,
Per
what this
hour.
does,
Sorry, 200k
yeah, per hour,
an
sorry.
hour, guys. So
yeah, sorry, 200k an hour. Sorry, yeah, there's that. So in my opinion, what this does is it hurts the smaller guilds compared to the bigger guilds. Larger guilds, they're able to complete more guild missions in a much more efficient and timely manner than a smaller guild. And because of that, there's just easier for them to get money. Silver comes easily to them. So this kind of makes an issue where the scaling for having a fight for a smaller guild and trying to be constantly in war with another guild, it just makes it a little bit hard and it's a little bit more stressful on the smaller guilds. So I was trying to think of a system that would enable smaller guilds to actually benefit from this system. And final, you had an idea for that, right?
So one thing I considered is you can scale how much the upkeep is depending on the guild size. So I'm not sure how feasible that would be for them to implement, but considering you upgrade your guild for how many members are in there, they could have the variable for the cost of the GVG upkeep be dependent on the size of your guild.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a really good idea.
I have to agree. Scalable fees would be something nice. I mean, I remember back in the days, right, Kinto? When we started out, we were a fairly small guild.
Right.
And we started to have GVGs, and the upkeep wasn't that high at first.
Yeah, at first it wasn't.
And we had some great wars with 2 or 3 guilds actually, constantly, and the legendary horse wars. But when we got the patch which they changed the upkeep,
Yeah, the upkeep cost
it
has pretty much just
suddenly
killed all of our
killed
PvP. Yeah.
exactly, because we were so busy killing the 2000 giants, the 4000 cat people, and whatever you needed for the quests. We were more busy to trying to uphold the keep for the war and
And
not
actually
actually
fighting.
warring
Exactly.
people, right?
Exactly.
So I kind of want to push this conversation away from PvP now, and I actually want to move into PvE. Now I know most people that are going to be playing this game are PvPers. We have a lot of the Lineage 2 community coming over here, but we talk a lot about PvP all the time on the forums and everywhere, and PvE is a giant part of this game. It's something you'll do from the beginning to the end of
So
time
infinitely, yeah, all the time.
while you're playing this game.
That is quite true. You will be busy for years if you want to max out stuff, I suppose.
So, one great quote I read on the Alpha forums, I'm gonna mess this up, but it was pretty much like the PvP in this game is the drink, the PvE is the ice cubes. One can't survive without the other, but it's so much less satisfying and kills the overall effect. And right now, everyone can agree that the PvE in this game is fairly dry. If you've been watching this Zaka video I have lying down, there really isn't that much to watch for or do. It is a punching bag. So with that, I want to move into the PvE updates we are considering talking to Dom about. Most of these are actually would not be terribly difficult to implement. Some of them would naturally take a lot more time than others. Mizu?
Well, yeah, if you're coming from your typical theme park MMO, then you're actually kinda accustomed to you hit a certain level, you do a dungeon, then kill mobs, do quests till you have the next level ceiling, do another dungeon. Now, because this is an open world game, there is no such thing as an instance dungeon. Nothing with bosses or other kinds of real mechanics. Till level 50, you're basically just grinding mobs that have no real incentive for you to learn your class or anything. I mean, you will hit a certain point around level 40 where the mobs start to get a bit more harder, but otherwise it's really just pull 8 mobs, they're like, hey, we're a bag full of XP,
Come
and
kill us.
we like your blade, please slice me open so I can give you this awesome XP. Which is really, like Straight said, it's really, really dry
Right.
So,
compared to any other MMOs out there.
so with that, the one thing I want to talk about is upgrading bosses. So before you were seeing a video of Zaka, and now I've switched to a video of a guild quest boss. You actually obtain this boss, a boss scroll for this by completing a quest with your guild, and then your guild can summon it to get cool drops. So, but once again, if you look at the mechanics, there's really nothing there. You just dodge every once in a while to the other side of the boss, he swings a couple times, go on. So what we want to talk about is a couple things they could add to bosses like this. One of those, and the easiest one, is mob summons. Now, a lot of you who have played the game know what a sturdy mob is. It is pretty much Black Desert's version of an elite mob.
Elite mobs, yeah, from other games, right?
So what they could
Yeah.
do is have these bosses summon those mobs and have them shield the boss, heal the boss, or maybe attack random players with strong magic attacks. Because they're elite mobs, they can't be ignored and just thrown off. You actually have to deal with these mobs.
Well,
Right.
they shouldn't be ignored. There should be some kind of mechanic to the boss itself.
Yes. Another thing we can also add on top of that is the boss having area of denial attacks. So for example, right now, you're watching a video of a boss in lava. There should be lava pools that come out of the ground or something that would force players to either move the boss or move themselves. So you can't just sit back and keep attacking the boss without thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea right there.
Yeah, and it's
Some
your
people,
easiest mechanics you can actually implement. You know, the
yeah,
typical don't stand in the fire mechanic.
right.
Another mechanic we have discussed is maybe adding a shield to a boss that you have to break. This would also encourage party play so you can break the shield effectively, and if you don't, maybe the boss gets enraged or gets healed and starts doing crazy damage and attacking super fast.
That reminds me of Queen of Terror, you know, you screw up the shield, you're fucked, basically. To put it politely, you were literally screwed over. But yeah, something like that would be actually nice.
Another version of it would be something like small attacks. So, Mizu, thank you for mentioning Queen. For anyone that knows what Donut is, for example, this boss, we could have him attack with his tail or just something, so you can't needlessly sit behind without worrying about anything the boss is doing.
Right. Giving them just varying mechanics and attacks so that you just always have to stay on your toes. I think that would be great.
Yeah, it just makes it dynamic. You know, you have this great combat system, and all you do is stand behind a boss.
And
That's
spam skills.
exactly. And most people at some point they get so bored, all they do is spam their left click. And that's about it. Because who cares if the boss dies 2 minutes faster? It dies anyway. That's the thing that makes PvE really boring, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Terra just got it really right, at least at the beginning. Their content, they really try to fully utilize that action combat feel. And
Mhm.
since Black Desert goes in the same direction, it literally screams for some interesting mechanics and boss encounters, and not just, yeah, I'm here, I spam left click, I'm done in, 12 minutes. 12 minutes? Can't I put my cat on my keyboard? Something like that. It's really not that interesting.
So, I want to kind of push us forward a little bit and talk about another aspect of PvE that wasn't mentioned, and that's open world dungeons. Because a lot of these bosses we're not gonna see till later. So, Misa, do you want to talk about open world dungeons a bit?
Well, yeah, as I have been saying, there is no dungeons at all, but we want to try to keep the game as open as it possibly can be. That means also it would encourage world PvP, which is the main focus and core of the game actually. We want people to compete for things, which gives drama, which gives PvP. But for dungeons, this game really has a lot, and I really mean a lot of hidden caves. But they're empty in terms of all you get is boring trash mobs. So if you're an explorer, that's fine for you. But if you want to do some PV, you get into the cave and you're like, oh, it's the same mobs like outside. There is nothing really interesting in there. You might find a hidden treasure chest. That's about it. So what we were thinking is, what you could do is just give those caves certain mobs, elite mobs for example, or even bosses with mechanics on a certain spawn timer. And they should also give you some kind of reward. Of course, not a reward that is vastly better than everything else, so that you're just sitting day and night in that cave camping the spawn. I
Right.
mean, other games have done that. Good old Ragnarok Online times, camping MVPs for the cards and stuff. But at least it would give the players some variety to their playstyle. I mean, if you're grinding mobs, why not make an open world dungeon where you can grind mobs, but you also have some more challenging things so your brain won't fall asleep or go into the so-called zombie mode. It would
So,
just end. What's it called? I'm sorry, I forgot the word. Go on.
yeah, so you don't fall asleep while fighting. So with that, I kind of wanted to tie
Right.
that into group play. So open world dungeons are a great place where this game could start putting people and encouraging them to group. So one of the things that they can do with open world dungeons is require a 5-man group. Up the mob levels, or not mob levels, but up the mob health, defense, and damage in there to levels where you are pretty much required to go in with a
Required, yeah, for a
5-man
group.
group. That way, that'll one, increase player participation and player grouping, and two, just make the game that much more fun. And maybe
I
when
would
you're at the
say,
top of your gear, lower it down to 2 or 3 people. I'm sorry, Kento, go ahead.
yeah, I was saying in addition to that, you could also even add in, like Mizu was saying, add in mini bosses within these open world dungeons. For example, like the caves in Hasla, which is in Media, or
Which is, by the way, a really nice cave.
yeah, it's a really great looking cave, and they just really need to add some mini bosses in. And what they could do is also add a better loot table for all the mobs within there, since they're increasing the difficulty of it, and have them dropping things like I think a really good drop would be memory of fragments, which for those of you who don't know, those are used to repair any type of gear, but most people use them to repair your expensive equipment, such as Liberto weapons or Zaka weapons. I think those as a drop, the memory fragments would be great because it'll be overall an incentive to be going there, so you can just easily repair your really good top notch gear weapons. Um,
So with that, that is definitely something I think they could implement. Make the open world dungeons harder to force people to group there, even when they're at their plus 17, plus 18 rank. By buffing loot, you'll encourage people to go in there early as a 5-man group and maybe get loot for the guild.
In my opinion, would not even have to buff loot. For example, you can make a cave that gives you more skill point XP if you are in there in a group. But you should have some diminishing returns due to the fact that people could camp the place, of course. But if it would be like you're an hour or two in there, you would get pretty decent or even better SP experience than on any other places. Or you could just put in some other things, for example, for gathering. A certain type of metal only spawns in the deepest caves below Calphion,
But
which you will need for armor, whatever you want to have.
but
Just give an incentive to go in there. I'm sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, but for keeping it for minimal changes for Dom, just buffing the mobs in there, making them more difficult, giving them a couple mechanics. So maybe in a group of mobs, a couple of the casters will be able to heal the rest of the mobs. Adding a couple mechanics and forcing a party to go in there and fight would just make it so much more satisfying than what it is right now. And
Oh
improved
yeah, I
drops would
totally
keep
agree.
parties going in there. And maybe two parties will meet and duke it out for the grinding spot. Once again, it adds more to the open world. Speaking
right.
about open
However,
world, I want to. Oh, I'm sorry, Misa, go ahead.
well, the party back needs to get back. Otherwise, you can't go in a group in there. I
That
Uh,
mean,
I completely
yeah,
agree.
they did
without
take
the
that out for
party
Alpha,
loot
right?
bag, that would be rather pointless. I mean, if we do not get trade, then we should at least get the party bag back.
We do need the party ride back. I agree. I'm not sure why it was removed in our alpha version in the first place.
Well, that's because the client is actually almost on the same update as Korea. It's just locked off content, same as the Russian client. So
Right.
they already have that update, which means it's gone for us now too, even though we might want to have it. But
So,
hey, an alpha version.
so to recap what we were talking about, they definitely need to update some boss mechanics, which we gave a couple of ideas on. Mob summons, have the boss shield and buff himself if you don't break the shield in time, and something along the lines of that. And open world dungeons need to be reworked to where they force you to bring a party in, and naturally buff loot for them. Make it more memorable to go in there so you're actually fighting for it. Another thing they really need to do though for party play, the last thing I want to mention are last two things I actually want to mention. Bring back party bag, regardless if they add trade or they don't add trade. Party bag is something that should be in there for group to quickly distribute loot. And two, group XP needs a buff. At the moment, there is a horrible nerf on group XP. At 4 people, you are down to 30% XP per person, which does not make it worth it unless you can pull 20 mobs at a time. It should
Yeah,
never go below 50%.
Yeah,
which
I
I
also agree. I think it
totally
needs a
don't
huge buff,
understand.
major overhaul.
Exactly.
I think it should encourage party play, not discourage it. I think party play should be something that people go to as a way to progress to the game at a much more fun and faster rate.
So
Well,
before,
it is an MMO, you know.
Yeah.
People should play together. And one of the most common things you read on Reddit or on the forums, any type of forums, by the way, official or fan sites, is always, well, the game is nice, but it feels so single player, which is true. That's
Mhm.
why Party XP would be a real nice incentive just to group up with your friends and do the stuff that you do in any other MMO too with friends.
so before we continue, I just wanted to mention something that was going on in chat about changing guild GVG upkeep. I think the cost needs to remain in there to force people to force guilds to go out and grind, and I think having a scaling cost would just be the best compromise between the casual and the hardcore crowd, because there are both of these crowds in the game, just like is a PvP and a PvE crowd.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So from there, I want to go talk about Vigor and the recent change to where Vigor is affected by your processing.
Processing professions.
Well,
Yep.
first I want to explain what vigor is for those who don't know.
So Vigor is pretty much the points you use to do most actions in the game, as in gathering, processing, crafting, and anything in that line of work. Now, Misa, do you want to go into explanations on Vigor and general
Yeah,
material
well,
gathering?
basically think of it like, and please put away the stones to throw it. Hear me out. It's like labor points. Yes, I said it. It's like in Arcade. But first of all, not everything is tied to Vigor in Black Desert as it was to Arcade. Only gathering professions and processing professions are now too affected by Vigor. The other kind of thing is you can expand your maximum Vigor. So it's not like, again, on Arcade where you have a pool of 2k points or 5k if you are a subscriber. You level your pool through experience. And that experience is gained by getting knowledge, which can be get through exploring
Yeah.
or talking to NPCs or even through questing. As soon as you get knowledge and you complete basically a bundle of knowledge, you get experience for Vigor.
So
You
essentially,
get
just play the game
points.
and you get a higher vigor pool.
Exactly. With this Vigor pool, you can also do some other kind of things. For example, there is the knowledge minigame on NPCs, where you get intimacy. Some NPCs will only sell you certain stuff if they know you better. Could be legal or illegal substances, who knows? But yeah, the most part Vigor is used for crafting. I think that explains it pretty much.
So there's a couple things I want to mention. First of all, I would personally like to see processing taken off of Vigor. This is because right now Gathering already uses Vigor, and Gathering is the only place where you can gain the sculptures to craft superior weapon and armor stones. This would greatly limit the pool of those stones for the NA crowd, that the Korean crowd doesn't have that limitation. And it's already hard enough to hit plus 18 in Korea, I think. So I don't think we need to limit Gathering and ourselves by putting processing on a Vigor cooldown.
Yeah. And the thing is,
Yes.
Vigor is also used. It's a necessary thing in order to do sieges as a guild. Like if you want to build your castle or your node for sieges, what is it? 800 Vigor, right? About 800 Vigor.
It is exactly 800 Vigor to build your castle on
Yeah.
castle. What's it called? Tent. Thank you, tent. So I just wanted to make a note of that for any guilds that are planning to siege. Make sure you have 800 Vigor across however many players you need to craft all the materials, and those players need to be actively participating in helping craft the tent.
Oh, actually, a good thing that someone pointed out in chat. Xtusa said that cooking and alchemy also uses Vigor too. Completely forgot about that. But yes, those two do also use Vigor, and they are crafting.
Yes.
However, that's the advanced crafting, right? It's not the quick cooking,
Yeah.
and the simple
Yeah.
alchemy. It's the advanced alchemy and where you need a crafting station.
Right. But yeah, I think overall I would be more satisfied with them reverting back to KR system for Vigor and just having it purely just from gathering. That's the only thing that Vigor is used for.
Well, another mention about it is, which I've seen quite a few arguments on the forums too, is that Vigor is being used to post on global chat and it should be removed. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Simply because maybe I'm too RP for this. But shouting across the whole globe takes kind of effort.
Yeah.
So, and because our English patch right now translates vigor into energy, it kind of makes more sense. And also, it really limits
Global
how
spam.
people chat exactly. And I don't know about you guys, but every MMO I join that has a global chat where people can spam the shit out of it, the first thing I do is find the checkbox to
And turn
turn
it
it
off.
off.
Yeah, same.
Because really, I don't know, I feel like world chat is usually the most cancerous thing on any MMO.
Right. It almost turns world chat into your own personal unescapable guild chat.
So
Yes.
I'd say keep Vigor for World Chat, but it definitely they need to look at removing it for processing, because I don't think we need more of a limitation on Blackstones, and it just limits how much people can do in their spare time.
Yeah, especially considering how low the success rates get for higher enchantments like 18, 19, or let's dream of 20, maybe next year. But yes.
So actually, thank you for bringing up enchants, Mizu. So from here, I'd say I want to go talk into our last section, and I want to talk about balance in this game. So the first thing regarding balance I want to talk about is the gear curve. Right now, a lot of people may have read my post on the forums regarding the gear curve. I did some basic math, and you gain roughly 300% of bonus damage on your weapon from enchanting your weapon from 1 to 15. You gain another 200% from enchanting from 15 to 20. That means 40% of the damage you gain is at that 15 to 20 mark. And I think that's a bit too much for what it should be. Right now,
Well,
right now I think that it needs to be nerfed to about you gain 400% from 1 to 15 and 100% from 15 to 20. And let me explain why. That would allow other people to get into the game and they won't be that far behind. The difference from 15 to 20 would be more measurable and you'd be able to deal with it easier. So right now in Korea, a plus 15 is never going to win against a plus 17 unless they just completely outskill them. But even then, the plus 17 will rip apart the plus 15 if he hits him even once. So what I want to do is I want to make this a little more skill based. So nerf 15 to 20, but buff 1 to 15. The side note I want to put into this is that 1 to 15 will have to become harder. This means because your plus 15 will now be equivalent to roughly plus 17.5 in Korea. This means past plus 11, so enchanting plus 12 to plus 15 will become much harder with what I'm proposing, but your plus 11 will be roughly equivalent to the current plus 15 in the game. So
Okay. So then essentially going from plus 16 and up, it's more so you're not gaining as big of a boost from it, but you're still getting a little bit of progression is what you're saying.
yes, so plus 15 with what I want to change it to, plus 15 will be equal to roughly plus 17.5 in Korea. But plus 12 to plus 15 will be much harder than it currently is in Korea. So they'll have to change the enchant numbers. But plus 15 to plus 20 will be kind of the try-hard enchants, which means that you don't have to have them. They're not going to give you as big of a boost in Korea, but you can still get them. And from what I know, I myself am a hardcore PvPer. I know that I will personally be putting in work into getting and maxing out my enchants to plus 18 and hopefully plus 20 someday, which I know will never happen.
Kashin says in chat that, but isn't it relatively easy to get to plus 15? He says that he always ends up making a plus 15 on alt before he tries a new class. Yeah, in the current Korean version, it is very, very easy to get a plus 15 weapon just because the game's been out so long and just the market for Blackstones is just, you can just buy Blackstones like off the chain, easy.
totally
When the game
crashed that
first
market,
started,
yeah.
yeah, when the game first started, you have no idea how hard it was to get plus 15 in the beginning of the game. We not only
Uh-huh.
did not have that extra counter to get that extra chance for getting the next upgrade, that extra success, but overall, just everything was just a lot harder in the beginning of the game when the game first came out. So overall, yes, now it's a lot easier. And I guess since our client, the North American version, the EU version, is getting the same client as the Korean version, yes, it will be slightly easier to get plus 15 weapons than it was, at least for me, in the beginning of the game. But you also have to keep in mind that the Blackstones on the market, there won't be so many that you can just buy straight off the market. You're still gonna have to be farming those yourself, especially in the beginning of the game. So you might have to wait about a month or two before you actually start seeing them on the market, before it becomes, average for everybody to have plus 15.
That's true, simply because people start to hoard them up for their own progression.
So what this does is it modifies the game to, or modifies 1 to 15. So 1 to 15 would become harder, plus 11 would become the new plus 15, and the new plus 15 standard for most players would become a much higher attack rate. This would mean that, and much higher defense for armor. This would also mean that enchanting to plus 20 doesn't give us much of a boost, but it's also, the gear is more balanced in terms of fighting a plus 18 and plus 15 gear will actually be a feasible feat versus right now in Korea, you will just get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's more like that one video I showed you. What you're doing in Korea right now is failing on purpose on as many characters that you have, just to get your counter high enough for that one single, maybe lucky try.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to promote with this change, and I'm not sure how feasible it is, but I'm trying to make gear matter a bit less, so everyone will have roughly. Yes, I'm saying armor will work the same as the weapons, Digox 91. So armor will give you more armor at plus 15, and weapons will give more attack. So from there, I kind of want to move on from enchanting, and I'm gonna show you a picture which is gonna define what we're talking about next. Everyone, please pay attention to the screen. 1 second.
Oh, are we talking about buff stacking?
Oh, all right. So everyone, please pay attention to what is on the screen right now. This is a common buff bar on the Korean server.
A common buff bar for
A Korean.
Siege Wars.
For Siege Wars, for PvP, that is 30 buffs across the screen.
Jeez, that is ridiculous. I'm sorry, guys. I can't.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Arcage.
Well, yeah, that in itself is a bad thing there, Mizu.
I know.
I'm sorry, guys. I have issues of this. I have so many issues with this. So many.
All right.
I don't think any person in any game should be able to stack this many buffs on them. At least not for an extended period of time. How long do these buffs last? If it's like 5 second, a 5 second buff, sure, okay.
Let me
5
answer
seconds
that
for all
question.
these buffs.
Let me answer that question for you, Kinto. No, these buffs actually last about an hour or longer each.
That is ridiculous.
However, you need to keep in mind some of those are so-called flasks, which are rather expensive. That's like 2 to 3 million pop, just one elixir.
All
Some
right.
of them.
So basically, I'm pretty sure everyone can guess what we're proposing here. Besides player buffs, so your personal buffs or wizard buffs or Valkyrie buffs, limit the buffs. It should be one food buff and one elixir buff. So you get to choose two, and you go with them. That's it. So you can choose to grab that XP food, or you can choose to grab damage food, but you can't have both.
Yeah, I agree. That because this is just ridiculous, guys. I'm sorry. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. As I don't think there's much left to say in regards.
It hit me.
So, as I don't think there's much less to say in terms of buffs, I want to move back to another point, and that's potions. So, with potions, I'm going to show you a quick video of Sork versus Giant. I'm on the Giant. I know I'm horrible on Giant. I still didn't really know how Giant PvP worked at this point, so don't make fun of me. But
I will make.
well, yes. All right. So this is me fighting Reckless. It is important. I'll do a quick play-by-play, but it is important to note that what's it called? Both of us are desyncing. So there you see me grabbing nothing in the air, missing the dodge, and getting my ass beat. Please note the potions on the bottom. This is a fight with equalized gear and no pots. So at this point I grabbed him, and apparently he was already moving at the time I grabbed. Here I'm auto-attacking to regain my resource. Getting behind him and auto-attacking some more to regain more of my resource. I finally got a good knockdown on him, and I charged up enough of my energy to attack him fully. And as you see, the attacks with that resource actually did a lot of damage to him. But now I ran out, so I can't do anymore. And he resisted my last grab. Oh, pro stun by Reckless, and now as you see I'm getting wrecked on the giant. At the moment, I do not have enough energy to actually do anything, so I'm just trying to get some auto attacks off or place a stun or knockdown so I can charge some energy back up. Oh, I got that knockdown off. I finally managed to get a grab. And I get that last hit in. Noting I lost like 2 duels prior to this, so don't so I want to point out there. So the main point I was pointing to this is I want to point that there was a point in that fight where I blew all my energy and I couldn't do anything else. I had to auto attack. So with that, I kind of want to talk about our next section, which is mana potions, energy pots, all of that. Kinto?
So I know you guys have seen me on the forums a couple times, maybe on Reddit, talking about this topic. But one of my biggest issues with the game is the fact of FP and MP potions, the fact that they give you an infinite resource to have. The game, before FP potions were introduced or anybody knew about them, the game felt a lot more in depth, a lot more mechanic learning, because everybody had a resource that they had to manage themselves. So these FEMP potions, it makes it really, really powerful in the late game when everybody has extreme amount of DPS they can spam from their skills. And the fact that their skills don't have a lot of cooldowns, they can just constantly spam these skills with an infinite resource such as mana or FP. When you don't have a need to manage your resources, it's all about just clipping somebody with a CC and then making sure you capitalize on that CC and damaging them until they're dead. Some classes have a really, really large benefit with these infinite resources, such as Bladers being able to dash and iframe through everything. They can iframe through a whole freaking Zerg if they wanted to with their iframes. Rangers, the reason why they deal so much damage is because of how much they can spam their cancel Q. I mean, everybody knows about cancel Q if you've played any of the current versions that are out right now, where they just rip you apart.
Let me
Sorry,
interrupt right there. Ranger, cancel Q, cancel shift Q into space shotgun blast. So on, there's just a lot of things you can do with infinite resources.
Yeah. So with these infinite resources, it makes it so that every person who is able to take advantage of this, they can overall just output way more DPS than what was originally intended for their class. And because of that, as you guys have seen, they have over time reduced the potion cooldown on HP potions. Overall, people are just able to pot more, just in general. And I feel like with this, the change to FP and MP potions has completely ruined the strategy that happened within the game. So now Zergs and Sieges, they're all about just spamming as many skills as you can until someone dies in front of you. And that's literally what it feels like. It's just, see, all these big warfares, it's all just about spamming as many skills until someone just dies.
So now, at the same time, I want to talk a little bit about health pots. So health pots, as many of you have seen, are kind of powerful early in the game, but it curbs down a little bit later in game, but they're still a little strong. By nerfing mana pots, we can definitely have health pots nerfed, and regardless, I don't think the potions should be on a shorter than 6-second cooldown. One thing I'm considering, and I would love to hear everyone's opinion on, is moving health pots and mana pots to the same cooldown, and that cooldown being 5 or 6 seconds. This means that you get to choose whether to charge up your resource bar or heal yourself, but you can't have both.
Yeah, I would totally agree on that. It just makes you think twice what you're about to do. It also helps to balance it out. Right now, you can just write a macro that presses 3 buttons for you. HP pot plus the other HP pot plus the MP pot, and you can spam that button and you're good.
Oh,
which
well,
is really, really lame.
actually, let me mention about that other HP pot. Kento, would you like to mention whale pots?
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we have normal potions on a 3-second cooldown. 3 seconds, right? 3 or 2 seconds?
2
Yep,
seconds.
3.
Oh,
2
3.
seconds?
3.
3 seconds? God, I don't remember. Anyway, so we have the normal potions. Let's say you're buying the biggest one that heals 275 HP every 2 seconds. 3 seconds? 3 seconds?
3 seconds.
So there's also these other potions that you can get by crafting certain materials that you use to craft after hunting whales, and everybody just calls them whale potions. And what they are is they're potion that heals you for 500 HP, correct?
Yes.
And it's on a separate cooldown than from your normal HP potions. So effectively, you can double pop both these potions, and be healing for nearly 800 HP every tick. That
Might
is an
also want
insane
to
amount of
mention
HP.
that most people have around, what is it, 1500 to 1800 HP, so that is really shit ton of healing right there.
So basically what we've discussed is, regardless of anything else, whale pots need to be on the same cooldown as health pots. But I think an easy fix to potions would be keep them on a 5 to 6 second cooldown, maybe 7 seconds, and put health pots and mana pots on the same cooldown. This means that, one, you'll get to choose what pot to use and you can't just spam pots. For those of you worried about sieges, remember that the loss of mana pots would really greatly decrease the amount of damage that's going out. So you won't need to spam health pots as much. If anything, you could spam some dodges.
Okay, I could see that.
Another thing I would want to mention with this is that mana pots would affect people's playstyle a little bit. The couple classes I want to bring up are Giant would greatly be affected by this because they don't have much regen outside of their auto attack. So I could see Dom maybe taking a look at the numbers gained, but on a
Yeah,
7
yeah.
second cooldown, you should be able to use your mana pots, and or 6 second cooldown, you should be able to coordinate mana and health pots in combination with your auto attacks or other resource gaining abilities to properly manage your
I would even
resources.
need to go as far as even allowing the classes that are suffering from without mana potions, such as Giant, maybe Tamer, and Ranger, to have a skill that's similar to Bladers, like their space and shift key that allows them to instantly recover a certain amount of FP.
I would say the easier way though to fix this, Kinto, and I agree adding skills isn't a horrible idea, but the easier way is to just buff their current uh,
Or
what's
the
it
current
called,
regen for their
regen
skills.
skills,
Yeah,
because all they have to do at that point is just tweak some numbers.
that's true. That is true. But
So
either way, they could use a buff after, but I think that's overall a much safer way to balance the game than balancing the whole game around pots potions. I don't think a game should ever be balanced around potions.
so by putting them on the same cooldown, it would at least add some more thought to it, and you couldn't just spam skills. So at this point, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. We've been talking about. Anyone have any questions about what we've talked about? I guess. What do you know? Should we be winding down the stream now since it's been about an hour?
Yeah, it's been about 45 minutes. I was just gonna say if anyone had any questions or any topics they wanted to bring up. Definitely some classes would need a boost to their mana recovery skills as is being said in chat, but a lot of them are actually fine for it. It's just people, for example, Archer, people just don't use cancel kick with auto attack because they can spam mana pots and spam cancel Q or the right click getaway explosion.
Right.
So I
I
think
just
it's
feel.
just a change of
Yeah.
playstyle that occurred.
Maybe Tamers can get some MP every time they dodge. Maybe. Because Tamers do dodge a lot with their iframes. I could possibly see that.
Mm. Buffing current
So,
attacks that give mana would probably be the easiest way since that's just a tweak.
Question: safe zones. So safe
exactly.
zones. Good question. Okay, or good statement.
There are way too many in my
Yeah, I think
opinion.
there's way too many.
I say because you can already dodge PvP a lot, and at any level area off the top of my head, I can name a couple places to go grind. They may not all be optimal, but the top areas should actually be a competition. There's too many safe zones, and it's way easier to run in run into them. Mizu?
Yeah, I think we should just get the system where we had it before. I think after 2 months or something, when OBT launched in Korea, they started to add more safe zones.
Yeah, they
I
started to
even
make more every
remember.
single. Sorry.
Well, yes, exactly. They started to change every single node or something to a safe
Yeah,
zone.
yeah.
I remember Steparo complaining about it a lot too, so just give us the old stuff and be actually rather nice.
All right. Since we all replied to that, the Karnax, as for your idea of making all classes use MP, there's MP and FP pods. It really doesn't matter what they're using. The key thing here is putting them on the same cooldown so potions are more manageable, and you're actually thinking about using your skills instead of just spamming your top ones.
Here in chat, lots of potions is lots of weight. That is true. However, currently in the Korean version, if you maxed out your strength skill, you can carry quite a lot of weight.
You
There is
know,
also the fact that you can swipe your credit card to boost that. You can
yeah,
basically double the amount of weight which you can carry, which is enough to carry a lot of potions.
that
Like
made me think.
really a lot of potions.
Like if possibly, like hypothetically, we didn't have an option to buy extra weight from the cash shop, and we just everybody had the same amount of weight. If they were to make potions weigh a lot more than they currently do, I think that would be a relatively okay fix as well. Like if you can maybe most people only carry around 10, 20 potions at a time. So they have to be way more careful about what potions they're using when. Maybe. Any
Those must
thoughts?
be some super heavy.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that should be balanced. I think if you're going to have potions, you should have to think about when you're using potions. Like it should be crucial.
Yeah, that's true.
Any
So,
thoughts, Final?
I think putting them on the same cooldown and keeping the cooldown 5 seconds is just the best way to go.
Okay.
Because it covers everything. It stops the health pot spam, and sure, you can be spamming health pots, but you're a dead man as soon as you run out of your resource. I don't care if you're spamming health pots or not. All you're doing is prolonging the inevitable that will come, because you won't even be able to get away at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Question: did the
Yeah, the
Valencia
weight
update
really.
bring any good/bad major changes? Mm,
camels, a couple world bosses, well, one world boss for now, which actually has some updated mechanics and is more fun to fight. Harpy boss. So it brought a lot of changes. The content in Valencia is a lot harder to grind, but for the most part, outside of a couple places, it's not worth it to grind.
Well, let's put it this way. At your average gear level, it's not really worth it. Players with a higher amount of defense and attack rate, they can do there fairly well. The thing is, however, how do you define worth? XP, SP, or money? And right now, the amount of money is not really a lot more than media for your average player.
Um,
right.
quick thing about the talk in chat. Digo91, the trading loots between parties is already in. That's what we were talking about in regards to the party bag. For some reason, that was missing in alpha.
Yeah, well, basically, they got rid of the party bag and introduced this. We're in a party, we allow to sell the stuff. And it's kind of a fix to the party bag too. If I remember correctly, the first, I think it was 2 or 5 minutes, only your party members can get the item you dropped in party. However, they need to buy it from the party, which is totally ridiculous to me. I mean, you worked as a party for the loot. Why does someone of that party suddenly pay the others to get the loot? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, we
Mhm.
kind of, that's why we're talking about bringing the party bag back. Um,
Let me
question.
ask, do you
Uh,
think that with Straight's proposed gear curve changes, that Valencia will be more worth it for us?
so let me explain it. So with my proposed gear curve changes, plus 15 would be equivalent to plus 17.5, and plus 16 would be equivalent to having plus 18 gear. So technically, yes, it would make a lot. It would make Valencia more accessible to players.
Which also has the benefit of players suddenly actually going there and trying the content. Right now, it really feels like if you're on an average gear level, you get your face really smashed in from those mobs. And most players, they are just like, yeah, why do I even bother? And there's a huge ass new area, and a big amount of the player base is not even going there simply because, yeah.
Another thing I want to point out from here is going back to Party XP. Party XP really needs to be buffed. I did testing on Party XP in the alpha.
Yeah, I was
At
there.
two players in parties, it's 70% XP. At three players, it's 50%. At four players, it's 30%. So they really need to buff Party XP and do some changes to the open world dungeons we've discussed in the stream earlier to make it more worthwhile to group.
Yeah, simply give the players the ability to play with their friends. I mean, most of you guys, and I think most of the people in chat too, they migrate to games with friends or for friends. And I did too when the OBT started, and most of the guys I brought into the game, they were lost again because I couldn't do what I normally do with other kind of MMOs. You get in there, oh, you wanna party? Sorry, bro. It's just,
Just not
if you,
efficient. Sorry.
it's just not efficient. If you're with me, it takes 3 times longer than if I'm doing it alone. If you're with me, I lose 1/3 of the actual money. If you're with me, it's always like if somebody is with you, they saw off your left leg. And if you get another one, you lose another arm. Then you're
Right.
trying to cripple your way through this,
So
which is,
basically, buff Party XP.
yeah, just let us play with our friends.
Question. Currently, endgame gear used for both PvE and PvP can mainly be obtained by boss drops. Do you think adding some kind of separation will be a benefit or a hindrance? First of all, endgame gear is technically not obtained by boss drops. Neil Tray armor is also endgame gear. Boss armor is purely from boss drops, so I assume that's what you meant. As for the separation, as said before, this game relies on a combination of PvE and PvP. It doesn't go one way or another, so I don't believe in segregating the player bases. I think we should instead focus on combining them and forcing people into the open world versus how would you even split it? Have separate gear? I'm not even sure. That would
Yes,
require a
like World of
complete reworking.
Warcraft does it right now.
Yeah, that would
Well,
require
yeah.
complete reworking of the game, and I don't think it should.
I don't think it should either.
Me neither. However, just a quick reminder, the most boss gear on the market right now does not come from bosses. It comes from the Korean PC Bang RNG boxes that
Yeah.
have a ridiculous high chance to drop this shit, which is really sad. I really hope that our version will pump up the drop rates for this gear on our bosses. Cause really, I've done every single day in the last 11 months on Black Desert Korea bosses, and I haven't seen a single drop at all. And that's a lot of bosses, even for drop chances with like 0.1.
All right. Quick. Before I get to North V's question, quick. Digo said because it seems no party drop and less XP and less money from partying, so it's better to solo. So that's what we're discussing with open world dungeons, to make it hard enough to where it requires a party, but at the same time boost XP, SP, and loot rates to where it's worth it to find a party to go in there and grind in a group of 5. And hell, maybe you'll see another group of 5 and you'll duke it out for the spot.
Yeah, I think that would be freaking amazing, especially since this game is so group PvP oriented. I think that's a great way to show it.
Yep,
Um,
it really just makes no sense.
So, Noth V13 question, pre-order content.
We have seen the leaked pictures, however, apparently they were just work in progress. I'm pretty sure some stuff we saw on that website will most likely be included. But right now it doesn't really make a lot of sense to discuss this, not even the prices, because we don't really know if those prices are legit or
Also, I would like to say that if they were exactly as stated, I would personally be all for it, minus the horse. The horses need to go
minus
away.
the 3-day head start that needs to go away too.
I don't mind. The head start's kind of, in my opinion, that's just a standard nowadays, so I'm not against it at all.
It is, but in standard MMOs, your level is capped, your SP is capped.
Mm,
Just to point it out.
yeah, but it's gonna be limited enough during the start where I don't think it's gonna be too big of an issue. Because level 50, Zaka's not there. You're gonna get maybe a couple extra daily bosses in. Honestly, they're gonna do what's right for their making money. So if you guys really don't expect to see Head Start, I think you're fooling yourselves. And that's not me being like it needs to happen. It's just I think the way it's gonna end up working out.
Well, it's just looking at it realistically, to be fair.
Yes. Um, any other questions? Also, you guys have to I apologize in advance. This is my first time streaming in a very, very long time. So it's kind of rough. Any other
Head Start
questions?
has always been a stupid idea. Everyone should start at the same time. I think the only issue arises with the smashing of the login servers and world servers with too many people. Okay. Yeah,
Well,
I
that depends how they manage this. But yeah, go on, Kinto.
I just want to put my own input on it. Black Desert is a game about just constant progression. And the way the game is the more you progress, the faster you progress, because the game just scales that way. Like the stronger your weapons, the more things you're able to kill, the more silver you're able to make, and so on. Just the way that the game is, if you have something like a head start, and for example, someone goes super hardcore in the first 3 days, like I'm probably going to do it, so I guess I could use myself as an example. I could
Suddenly
possibly
Kinto
get to
is
level
back in the
50.
game.
I could possibly get to level 50 and start grinding, like Excuses said, get to level 50 and start grinding the Shadow Knights right away. Get 5/5 rings, get 2 of those. Go over to the skeletons, get 5/5 earrings, get 2 of those. Go some ogres since you have so much attack, get an ogre's ring, and suddenly, by this time you're probably at like 130, 140 attack, and you're able to kill so many things, you're just able to make so much money. And because of all you have, this money you have, you just overall just at a much huge advantage, and you're just far more ready than any
I'd
other
say
player.
like 80 attack. Let's be realistic. 80, 90 attack, if that.
But that was kind of the point I was trying to make, as Kinto stated. Suddenly, with 3 days ahead, you also have more SP, you can max out skills faster, and so on. So, yeah, it is kind of a achy top, I suppose. But it will happen, it will probably happen.
Yeah. So
But then again, if they're going to have a head start package, that would mean they would have to have multiple packages because the game's buy to play anyway. So it's not like it's a head start until free to play. So I don't know. I'm not sure how they do a head start, but if they do it, I just hope it's
In
not much.
before, if you buy the super hyper mega awesome deluxe edition, your close beta character won't.
Oh god.
Oh god, no.
Question: BDO is a sandbox game. However, many players are concerned that if there's too much freedom for players to change the world may turn extremely negative, just like Arcade. How would you explain this to these players?
I'd say don't worry about it because that's not gonna happen by gameplay standards.
Yeah.
That's just not something that will happen because you can't change the world as much as you think. You can control the world, you can get a castle, you can get ready for a castle, but you're not gonna change the world and own the world. There's always another place to go. Discussion. How about that mount combat? I
That's
think it needs to
actually.
get nerfed. And some classes are really OP on mounts, and it's a bit crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up, Penguin, because I've noticed that. I'm not sure when it was, but have you guys ever been able to knock somebody off a horse without a Fury skill or without a weapon or without a gun?
Only the Fury skill knocks down from mounts.
Mounts, right? Yeah. Um, I feel like they should add more skills that are able to knock people off mounts, like maybe even knockback skills or knockdown skills or knock up launch skills, maybe, or have the possibility of knocking people off mounts. Because right now mounts are super strong, considering you can't CC somebody run down a mount, and the only way to actually take them off it is if you take a gun with you and actually shoot them off, or use a Fury skill.
I would say go with knockdown skills then, because that's something most classes have, versus only a few classes have knock up skills.
Mm-hmm.
Question. So we can assume that BDO is a work hard to get paid for game, aka as much as you play, the stronger you get. That depends how much pay to win they implement. But for the most part, yes, by playing more, you get more skill points, so you can get more skills unlocked. You can get more blackstones and have higher enchanted gear, and you'll do better than other people. Going back to that balance thing where I mentioned changing the way gear enchanting works, that would make it that someone in plus 15 actually stands a chance fighting you. Versus right now, if you're fighting a plus 18 player in plus 15 gear, you're dead. I don't care how good you are, he only needs to touch you once.
Well, in short, Black Desert. Grind is love, grind is life.
Yes, that is true. So I guess that's it for questions. Anybody else have anything?
We can always go into, me and Kinto can always go into a warrior discussion if people really want us to. Both of us play
There's a
warrior
lot of warriors there.
extensively,
There's maybe like 3 warriors.
if that. You know there's gonna be that rush when the great sword comes out. X2s, we do not want to go into trading. We feel like it's the horse is dead. Let's just wait for Dom to bury it.
Where's the site with alpha keys? You can't currently sign up right now, Farticus. Farticus, am I saying it? Farticus Maximus. But you can just check the official site for information on when the next beta will be.
As for no, I'm not gonna go into trading. Nope, I'm not saying anything.
Discuss RNG stats, aka evasion and CC resist. Do you want to talk about that, Final?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on evasion and CC resist?
Alright, so I think accuracy shouldn't leave. You should need some base amount of accuracy so people aren't just mindlessly stacking attack or defense. It adds some depth to it, but evasion should definitely get the hell out. Because it's just a lame stat to begin with. If I hit you, I should have hit you if I have enough accuracy to make my skills connect.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that concept in like a tab targeting game where, it's tab target, just that little RNG chance.
Decide if you
Yeah. But with an action combat game, if I'm literally hitting you and I see it on my screen hitting you with all these actions I took to actually get to this point, I feel like it should actually land. All of the hits should land. It shouldn't be RNG chance of, oh, sorry, you missed.
Now, as for CC resist, I think CC resist, at least you get the standard 20% and you can get more through gems. I I have mixed feelings about it because I don't think CC should be a guaranteed to land because there's just too much of it to spam. I think a cool thing if they decided to add mechanics later would be when you get CC, the next time you get CC, it only lasts half as long, and the next time it lasts even less until you're immune for a set amount of time. So that's a mechanic I think they should definitely look into over the resist RNG chance, but at the same time, the resist RNG chance kind of works and it allows your buddies to bail you out.
Just a quick question from Draco991. Thoughts on army of pets running around?
There's an
Well,
option to disable it.
there's an option to disable pets from other players or even your own, so I don't really see an issue with it.
As for the from North V on evasion, changing it to like agility from Dark Souls 2, the issue with that is that would allow iframe chaining to be insane. From anyone that played earlier in the open beta test in Korea, gamers used to be able to chain their iframes to where they were literally immune till they got close enough, immune to everything till they got close enough and to spam their grab on you. Let's see your thoughts on the IP block. I'm really not gonna talk about this, but for the most part, that's a licensing issue for Dom. That's not something we can discuss. They don't have the license. It's a legal matter. It, I mean, you can try and get them to buy the license, but that's about it.
Just expect Korea to block us once our version is sold.
Any other questions? All right then.
Okay. I
Well,
guess that's it.
yeah, that
Thanks
sounds
everybody
like
for
it's
tuning in. I appreciate all the comments and questions.
Yeah, so do I. I really do appreciate it. This was the first time we do it. If you guys enjoyed it, I'm gonna make a post in the forums which will have a link to this, and everyone can who didn't watch it can access it there. And if there's enough of a positive feedback, maybe we'll do this again sometime.